For our next writer, Christopher Kuhl is a frequently published poet and active reader of his work, who also gives the occasional talk or workshop for curious non-writers, which sounds really interesting. I think that would be cool. Recently, he's begun to explore short fiction, has published all his stories, and in 2016 won the editor's choice for his story, Wade, in Inkscape. He's trained in all the arts except for literature, which I was astonished when I read that because your poetry is excellent. But he's always written and continues to improve. When not writing, he is either doing visual art or studying Hebrew. He is never bored. You can find more information at christopherkuhlpoet.com. Christopher?
Thank you for coming. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think that's all right. I just want to say these are relatively new poems. Some are brand new, written mostly in Tennessee. I have two places I like to write besides home, either the Limestone around the corner and down the street, or in Tennessee. It's easier to get to the Limestone than it is to Tennessee. But I go to Tennessee probably 2 or 3 times a year, and I have some friends I stay with, and they open their house to me, and I just do what I want to do and drink what I want to drink and write what I want to write. So that's all I have to say. I've got a new book I just finished. It's at the publishers. I don't know when it's going to be coming out. I'm dreading the typos that I've sent them. It's going to be called Night Travels. So just, I'll let you know when it comes out. You'll know on Facebook for sure. Okay, so let me just read. This first poem is called Looking Over the Edge. You have to have the power over lonesomeness to live out here in a plank house in hill country in the middle of nowhere. No barn, no fence, a collapsing porch. Nothing but an old, rusted-out Dodge in a ditch beneath a blood-dark, starless sky. Hunger. When I was young, at family gatherings, I was afraid. I didn't recognize these people with their ancient accents and woolens, musty even in summer, their old and rheumy eyes grabbing at me. But I didn't take refuge in my mother's skirts or run shouting and screaming with the other children. I was told they were my cousins, but I felt no connection to them, did not feel genuine, did not feel safe. So I sought out my father, standing behind and gripping his long, straight legs, peering out once in a while, secure with his hand on my head or shoulder. I was my father's cub, not like my sister, the princess, nor would I grow up to be king. That was my brother's future. Rather, I would be a bear like my father, watching the plates of food being passed, hungry, but too afraid to eat in this foreign nest of women, children, and old men chewing cigars. Passing through. This is a true story. And I haven't changed the names to protect the innocent either. Okay. Hannah moves at her own pace in her house with 3 cats on Hunter Lane. A wasp crawls on an inside window. She captures it with a can and a lid and releases it out the front door as though bidding farewell to an honored guest. The air cools. Hannah gets a glass of wine. Clouds amass, gray, steady. She hears her neighbor outside on the gravel road, skidding into his driveway. The wind rises, and it starts to rain. Blount County, Tennessee. Now for a little fun. Goats. Kids are small people. Goats are big kids. Men with long mustaches and chin hair have goatees. Mothers on farms love and bottle feed their little goatees. Kids love to scramble in the dirt with their goatees. I have the beginnings of a wispy goatee. My father's is a full, dark goatee. I never grew up. Instead, I look like a big goat. But inside, I am a little kid, face smeared with dirt, so for a few moments, I can have a goatee, kid that I am. Burn down the mountain. All the fires we had in different parts of the country and the mountain burning up and stuff. So prompted this poem, Burn Down the Mountain. The wildfire burns off all the trees, brush, burns the mountain down. Is it the world's end? The waterlogged earth runs off, triggering mudslides. Bodies are suddenly, helplessly twisted, bent, entombed for eternity as we know it. A white wooden cross stands planted at the base, a prayer for the unknown lost. North Country Harvest. By the way, yes, I do write with a pen and paper. I don't write at the computer. Makes me a neo-Luddite, but I don't care. North Country Harvest. Mid-September, the farmer back of us is running his combine and trucks through the fields, chopping corn, getting it ready for Farney and Steiner's feed mill. It's been a hot, dry summer, and the combine and field trucks raise up a hell of a lot of dust. A hell of a lot of dust. We've been sitting out back talking and drinking coffee, and we're a little dusty ourselves. In fact, my paper is a little dusty, and my pen scratches as I write this. Ancient times, modern times, winter time. Spiky bird tracks in the snow, like cuneiform tablets, wedges recording business, laws, literature of the ancient Sumerians. We too have our own cuneiform, the spiky music of Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Bartók, sharp colors, angular rhythms, heart-pounding dissonances, yet lyrical too, as lovely as a heartbeat relaxing. The weather here has been in the deep freeze, 2 feet of snow on the ground, not lyrical at all, rather dissonant as we freeze in our wedged tracks. Then suddenly we're in the upper 30s. The snow begins to melt, steaming away any mark of our presence. I wish I could read cuneiform. I wish I had a bit of it in my coat pocket, a bit of clay that I could scratch back, wishing them well and sharing our spiky times, the Firebird, the Lieutenant Quiget suite, and most of all, world to world, ancient to new, the microcosmos, musical cuneiform steaming. Lost, 1941. Holocaust poem. 1. Crashing through the woods, dense as an internment camp, screaming, soul reduced to ashes, brother, bring me home. 2. The supermoon shines, rising in the eastern sky. Smoke, grit, a train rolls through. 3. A spark of fire quickening, threatening, in the night. In the night, my heart contracts, my shoeless feet snapping hollow bones. A little lighter. Thoughts when I was younger. 1. Teachers lived at school. At night, they did long division, conjugated verbs, and then slept under their desks. 2. Priests wore black pajamas with Roman collars to bed and slept in cells full of votive candles from which they lit their cigarettes. 3, my dad, a trucker, drove back and forth across the country, sniffed diesel, used to drawl on the CB radio, and drove 1,000,000 miles a year. 4, my siblings and I were born of immaculate conception. My parents whispered for hours behind closed doors, and then my father would emerge beaming, and my mother was fat. They'll kill me. And finally, I'd like to close with this, which is also going to be the closing poem in my book, Sera di Verano. In the waning light of a summer evening, the extended family gathers. The youngest chase fireflies with jam jars. The adults play bocce, clicking in the dark. Siblings and cousins argue over the identity of rising constellations, while the elders murmur quietly in Italian, sipping amaretto. We are no more, this village, than a wide spot in the road. Headlights approach, reflect in the windows, and then are gone, red tail lights shimmering in the hot breeze. Thank you.